Hi everybody, I'm Zilla Blitz and welcome. Today we're going to do an unboxing of the 7th printing of Commands and Colors Ancients. Now this is a game from GMT Games designed by Richard Borg that has 15 battles between Rome and Carthage spanning from roughly 400 to 200 BC. Also, Cube4ME, as a company that makes storage solutions, has sent along their custom-made storage solution for this game. So we're going to take the Cube4ME challenge. After we do the unboxing, we're going to see how well the components fit into their storage solution, whether we can get it all back in the box. So let's jump in and get started. Before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about why I got this game. I think if you're, over the past year and a half as I've gotten back into wargaming, I've wanted to kind of get a chance to sample some of the iconic wargaming systems and some of the iconic wargame games. And I think Commands and Colors system is definitely one of those kind of iconic systems that have defined wargaming over the past 20 years. Now, this game here was really kind of, if you would, almost the third game system that used the Commands and Colors system, but it goes back as far as like Battle Cry from Avalon Hill in 2000, Memoir 44 uses this system. Then we have the Commands and Colors Napoleonics, which has a base game and 7 expansions. You know, this one has 6 expansions, Commands and Colors Medieval, Commands and Colors Samurai Battles. Then you've got more recently from PSC Games, The Great War, Red Alert, and then Jacobite Rising from Compass Games. So this has got games that have been produced using this system for the past perhaps 2 decades, and looking at 20, 30 different games counting expansions altogether. So definitely wanted to sample this system, and I thought Commands and Colors Ancients would be a good way to start that with its recent 7th printing. First printing was in 2006. So the second reason why I wanted to get this one as well is this. The CGG Solo system, which has recently come out. This is designed by Stuka Joe, put out by GMT Games, which allows a solo system to incorporate into Commands and Colors Ancients. So I'm very curious to learn the game, check it out 2-player, but also see how the solo system works for it as well. But this is a story for a later time, of course. Now, one thing I will say as we start to dig into this is a big box, 3-inch box, there's a lot of stuff inside as we'll see. However, one recommendation, if you play with the front cover facing, you get 10 epic battles, Rome versus Carthage. But if you flip it over here, as we look on the back of the box, if you play with the back of the box facing, you get 15 epic battles. So definitely play with the back of the box facing you so you get those extra 5 scenarios. Let's quickly take a look here at the kind of the overall elements of the game. 2-player game, again, we have the 1-player system that's you can add to this as well. It's a block-based game, as we're going to see. Playing time lists an hour, and I think that probably varies by the complexity of the scenarios. There are, of course, I'm joking, there are 15 scenarios in this core game, again with the 6 expansions available, but we'll take a look at some of those scenarios as we dig in. Complexity level says medium. I think this is probably an older system. GMT Games now uses a 9-point system. Kind of looking through things here, I would say it's on the lighter end of medium, probably closer to the low. So if I were to go kind of use their 1 to 9 system, I would probably say this feels like a 4. It just doesn't feel super complex or super challenging to learn how to play the game or execute the game. Now, let's jump in and take a look at what's inside. We'll start out with the rule book, and I don't want to spend too much time on this. We've got 24 pages. The back ones here, yeah, pretty much all of this is kind of content. I mean, it's talking about some of the cards here. So 24 pages of rules, nicely laid out. This is kind of a 8.5 by 11, just matte paper, regular paper type of manual here. Lots of kind of information, but some graphics to help you learn and things like that. Pretty straightforward. It doesn't look like anything in here is super complicated, but yeah, I guess there is some kind of heft to it. Definitely that medium range feels about right. And so let's put that off to the side and let's take a look at our scenarios. So scenarios span from 400 to 200 BC, and I think we're not going to spend too much time again on this. We'll take a look at how the map works shortly. But you can see some of these relatively simple. There's not a ton of units or counters on each one of these battles. They get, this one here looks a little bit more complicated. Bagradas from 253 BC. And then we start to get some more complicated here. But 15 great scenarios between Rome and Carthage spanning that 200-year period. And I confess, I don't know how the expansions add on to this and kind of move into various time periods and various combatants and things like that. But this, of course, focuses on Rome versus Carthage, and you get the 15 scenarios here. But it looks like, again, evidenced by 15 scenarios, of a lot of gameplay. There's a lot of depth and I think a lot of replayability in this, especially if you add in like the solo system to pick up there as well. So looks like good depth and good value to the package here. Now let's take a look at some of the components. The biggest thing we've got here are the blocks, and there's a lot of them. The Cube4ME challenge is going to have to handle this big mountain of blocks. We have gray and brown representing the two different sides. There's at least 3 different sizes in here. I think there's also some rectangular ones that I just can't pick out here. They start at 5/8 of an inch, so a little over a ½ inch. Then there's some that are 13/16 of an inch, a little over 3/4 of an inch, and then some that look at, they're kind of right at 1 inch for the kind of the Carthage's elephants there as well, some of the larger size units. So we'll come back to this later to see how well Cube4ME handles this massive mountain of cubes and organizes them there. Let's jump in now and take a look at our cards. So Commands and Colors Ancients as Commands and Colors system is a card-driven game, and these are basically the command decks. So these are the cards that you're going to use to issue orders to your units. And we can see here, I'll put some close-ups up of these on the camera too. A lot of them are kind of basic, ordering a different section of your troops to do certain things. Order 3 units left, order 3 units in the center. And one of the other, this command deck kind of feature where you have section cards, which are activating a certain section, is one of the defining features of the Commands and Colors system, as well as the fact that the map board itself is divided up into 3 different sections: center, left flank, and right flank. Then in addition to these kind of command cards, you also have tactics cards, and I'm still kind of learning how this all works, but these are kind of, I think, almost higher order commands that allow you to do rather unique things. So we have double time here, order 4 or fewer units in a group, because this is a little bit. First strike is another one. So they're kind of command cards with a lot more flair and nuance to them as well. So you're basically using kind of an integration of these 2 types of cards to command your units across the battlefield. So let's slide those to the side. Battle dice, another one of the defining systems. These are not dice with regular 6-sided numbers on them. They have red squares, green squares, some triangles, blue triangles, as well as this centurion-looking guy, and then some swords. We have a flag. I think that's a result. So these dice dictate different results depending upon what kind of units are involved as well. So it's not just a straight numerical system that dictates combat results. It's an integration of a combat results table with these different dice icons that show up on the different faces. And speaking of that, inside the game we also have 2 reference sheets. These are identical, so we'll just take a look at one of them. This is a combat results table, it looks like. So ranged combat and close combat. And if we open them up, we get different characteristics of the different units. So we have light, heavy, Commands and Colors Ancients references. I'm not sure what the difference is between these here. Oh, this is close combat, and this is foot units and mounted units. There we go. And we have leaders that can influence combat, so leaders play a role. And then the backhand side here, we have different types of how the units themselves integrate with the combat dice, which I'm not quite sure how this works yet, but it's all right there on these 2 reference cards. So those certainly look handy. Now, as we come to our blocks, here are our stickers. So we are up to sticker fun. We can see these are some of the smaller ones for the ½ inch units. I'll show close-ups of these. Then we get the mounted units, which look like those are closer to the 3/4 inch, elephants the 1 inch, and then it looks like these chariots and leaders are more rectangular. 6 sheets. These 2 are identical, one of 3, so it looks like maybe front and back. It's got some spares in here, always nice to see. And this is the Romans that we just looked at. These are the Carthaginians. Sheet 2 of 3, again, 2 identical sheets it looks like. So front and back probably for each one of those. And then this looks like some more Roman units here, as well as some of the kind of Carthaginian flags and Roman flags to be added in here. Really high color. I love the style and the artistic vision behind these. And yes, I'm looking forward to spending quite a bit of time putting the stickers on the blocks. A lot of stickers, a lot of blocks. Let's jump in now and take a look at the map. The first thing I will say about this map, so it's 30 inches by 20 inches. I'll show a close-up of it, or kind of a distant view of it as I unfold it here. It's also 2-sided. So you get one side of the map, and I'll show how this works again with zoomed out pictures because the unfolding of these are always awkward here. So one side of the map is a completely self-contained map where you have no half hexes on the edge. And then the other side of the map is one that has, and this is again kind of nice mounted map, the other side has one edge that is only partially has half hexes on it. So it strikes me that as you play forward, and we can see it now here on this kind of close-up, these half edges, this looks to me like as you buy the expansions to the game, there must be another map that's in one of those expansions that allows you to double the size of the map, or maybe even perhaps triple it, depending on how far wide you'd want to go. Now the terrain on the map is basically standard. It looks like clear hexes here. They have some kind of grass on it to just kind of articulate the flavor of the map, but it looks like these are clear hexes, and we'll see how that works in a second. This by far, I think, these are probably the second biggest hexes I've seen in a war game. These are 2¼ inch large, which I guess makes sense because if you're going to have multiple blocks in a hex, you need it big. But it really gives this kind of, for a small footprint, it gives it a really cool feel to it because, again, this is 30 inches by 20 inches, so you don't need a big footprint to play the game. Gives it very much kind of a miniatures feel to it, I think, with the block system that's there, and the quality of the map, excellent as well. Now, so lastly, what we want to look at are these terrain tiles. Now the terrain tiles here, you get 3 of these. These allow you to transform clear terrain into a variety of terrain. So we can see we have 3 different sides here. These of course look like hills. If we flip these over, we get some encampments, looks like some kind of walls basically, kind of fort kind of situation, and then some rough terrain as well as water that can be added. Here we have woods, forest of course, and then on the other side we get more rough terrain, a little bit of a stream, again creating a shoreline with the battle. So lots of cool kind of ways to create games. It feels very much like a sandbox type of thing, like you get the 15 scenarios with the game, but I feel like there's probably a lot, given how old the system is and how many iterations and expansions, I bet there's a lot of homegrown scenarios that you can find online. I know there's a Command and Colors net, and there's almost its own, this game system, this game in itself, Commands and Colors Ancient, has its own mini website, and it looks like there's a lot of scenarios available there, because this really feels like something where you could design your own scenarios pretty easily, and I have a sense that's probably a thing with this system. Correct me if you know, maybe drop it down in the comments and things like that, and I apologize for my ignorance, but I'm new to the system, so this is really my first look at it. So I had to cut that out because it's a slight mispronunciation. It's Sheet 3. And we have streams here again, some more ocean with the stream coming out of it, different things like that. And then more walls, more it kind of looks like shoreline hexes, and then hills here as well. So there you have it. Now that's all the components. I'm going to go away for a little while, come back with all of the blocks stickered, and then see if I can fit them in the Cube4ME storage solution. So we'll take a look at that, and I'll be back in a sec. All right, we are back. Now, it's quite a while later. There are a lot of stickers and a lot of blocks in this game. So it's actually 3 innings of a Major League Baseball playoff game, a full Arsenal-Liverpool soccer match, and then 3/4 of the Vikings Bears NFL football match later. I finally get all the blocks stickered and everything into their containers here. There's just a lot of stickers to stick, because these are all double-sided stickers. They go on both sides of the blocks here. So here is, the question is, how well does the Cube4ME storage solution work for this game? Now there are 5 trays. This is one of the 5 trays. These are the bottom Carthaginian units. And what I figured out is that you have to single stack these so you don't double stack them one on top of the other. If you do that, they don't nest inside of each other correctly. And the way it works is the bottom one is single stacked. So here's some Carthaginian units. The second one, some more Carthaginian units, and they just sit right on top of each other and slide into place nicely. Here are the smaller Carthaginian units. Again, these are all single stacked, so there's just one in the box. Whoops, hit the camera there to make it for easy access. And then we get to some of the Roman units. So they're larger size Roman units. And then the top one, you double stack. So the top, otherwise they're not all going to fit into the 5 trays, but that's, you kind of want that because you want to take that space out there, so there's not a lot of loose space for these. So this one is double stacked. Now I will say, I kind of wish there were instructions in this, because I kind of had to piece this together on my own. At first I thought there wasn't going to be enough trays because I was single stacking them all. And then when I thought I had to double stack them all, they don't nest inside of each other that well. So I kind of had to stumble on the solution that the top one's double stacked and all the others are single stacked. So instructions with this kit would be nice, or even like a QR code that links to a web page on their website, because I did look on their website and I kind of pieced things together. but it would have been nice to have some kind of specific instructions on how to build this set up. Then you get the one cover that sits on top of the pile of all 5. Locks down kind of nice like that. And I notice this locks down when it fits inside the box really well. We're going to slide these to the side and pull out the box. And the question is now, does everything get back into the box? So we pick up our stack of units. We're going to turn those sideways like that so it fits nice and snug inside the box. Now we have everything else. Now I punched out the terrain tiles to make it, that also going to reduce the height a little bit. That tucks in there. Here are our cards. They go back in. These are extra blocks. I think I could fit these into the trays, but I don't see any reason really to put them in there because they're just extras. The dice go in there, and that all fits nice in this little side spot. So far, so good. The last thing we have to put in, rulebook scenarios, extra sticker sheets and stuff like that, and the player aids, they go like that. The things I've taken out are the 2 completely empty sticker sheets and then these frames for these, the terrain tiles, which I just don't need anymore, so I'm going to just throw those away. Now the question is, how does the cover get back down? It sticks up just a little bit here. I'm going to say maybe, you know, 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch or something like that. Cover goes on, slides down. Boom, it's pretty much perfect. I mean, maybe 1/8 of an inch lower, but I'd rather have that. Like, I'd rather have it snug like that so there's no wiggle space between the box and the tops of the trays because it's going to hold everything together nicely. So I am going to say the Cube4ME storage solution has passed this test with flying colors. The thing I think I really like about this is that, you know, if you pop this open and take it out, it's going to be super easy to set up. Because you just pop these out, you can see all your units. You're not hunting around for anything. So if you've got a setup, I think this is going to make it really fast. So I can see this being a really neat solution if it's a game that you play a lot of. If it's one of your favorite games and you want to play a lot of, this is going to really, I think, help speed up the setup time. And then just organizationally, it's going to keep these nice and neat. Just a really neat solution. That's a lot of counters. I mean, a lot of blocks. I thought there's no way this is going to work, but it's pretty much perfect. So yeah, Cube4ME storage solution, I'd say it passes its test with flying colors. Now I'm going to put links up here to the next 2 storage solutions. We're going to test it with Empire of the Sun, and then its greatest test with more than 7 counter sheets is the Great Battles of Julius Caesar. So I'll put links to those up once I get a chance to kind of do unboxing and test those out. Also very much looking forward to getting this to the table, just looking through all the components and stuff like that and getting a taste for the system. This looks pretty cool. Looking also forward to combining it with GMT's CGG solo system by Stuka Joe. I think there's a lot of gameplay in here. Pretty excited to give this one a test. So let me know if you have comments down below, if you've got questions about the storage solution or anything like that, or questions about the game. Be happy to answer them as well as I can. So thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you again soon.